Hey guys, what's up? It's Placid5 here, and today we're going to be talking about The Acolyte. We are joined here with our Star Wars expert.
Thank you for having me.
Today we're going to be talking about the controversy, the hate, his opinion on on everything about The Acolyte, all the hate it's been getting, the controversy, and to answer the age-old question, is The Acolyte really that bad? Right now, we've hit episode 6 of the show. It's not complete yet, but we decided we wanted to cover it. So without further ado, let's get going. What controversy do we want to start with?
I think the biggest one that caused the fandom to go to war with itself once again is episode 3. Episode 3 was not very well liked. I didn't like the episode. I didn't think I'm not so extreme. People, wanted to say it ruined Star Wars, ruined the canon. I think I'm interested to see what they do with it. I wasn't a fan of it. I think the acting has always, throughout each episode, has been a problem, but that's just Star Wars for you.
Because we're not the same. Of course we are. No, it feels that way because we're the only children here.
Some people saying, hands down, the worst episode in the history of Star Wars ever. For people with that sentiment, what do you say to that?
I think the Book of Boba Fett with those colorful speeders might have that topped.
Might be the contender for that.
For anyone who's watched the Book of Boba Fett. But it definitely needs to be fleshed out. I think there's just a lot of questions. I think it was very bold in what it did or tried to do with May and Osha and where they're from, how they were born. And I could see how people are hesitant because of how it translates to, of course, Anakin being born and see through the Force.
So go into detail more about that. What that's one of the things that has been getting a lot of backlash. What did they do? People are feeling like that canon events, like you mentioned, like that people they're taking away, they're stripping away monumental things from other Star Wars and kind of claiming it as their own for the sake of, commentary or what have you.
Well, this is definitely what the Disney controversy has always been. It's always been Disney's ruining Star Wars, Disney's breaking canon. Because, for people who need a refresher, in episode 1, Anakin he doesn't have a father. Shmi, his mother, said how he was born through the Force. Well, she didn't say that. Qui-Gon said that, but she said there was no father. She said she raised him, she carried him, and he never had a father. And it was just believed by Qui-Gon that because he had no father, that he was born through the Force, and he would be the chosen one. And I think what you see here is the Acolyte introducing 2 more characters who seems like they don't have a father. It was said they were raised and carried on their own. So I think that's where people want to say, wait.
Star Wars fans are just thinking you can't get away with that. You can't just claim it as your own. And if I'm not mistaken, in there they don't actually ever say the Force. Do they say it's the thread rather?
Yes, yeah. It's not. The origins of them is unknown. We call them witches because that's something that we've seen before with the Night Sisters. But yeah, I think there's a lot of new things going on here. We're what are we? We're over 100 years roughly before the Phantom Menace. So there's a lot of things unexplored in this part of the story and universe galaxy. I think Disney obviously wants to take its own directions, people say this doesn't feel like Star Wars, and I think
I was gonna ask how in the timeline of it all, does it feel? How does it feel within if you're putting the series in there? In the chronology, does it feel natural or does it feel like they're like ham-fisted?
It's definitely different. I wouldn't say it's forced, but it's definitely. It's an era we've never seen before. We've never gone behind episode 1 before, other than obviously the High Republic and books and comics. But on screen, this is the first time we've gone this far back. It definitely feels different. but I wouldn't say it feels bad.
And then in on the topic of years, one of the other issues, kind of the more details you picked up on here was the age difference.
Ki-Adi-Mundi. Oh,
yes. Let's go into
everyone's favorite Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk if now that we're on the topic of years and stuff.
Yeah, well, through I don't even know the name of it. It was something released around the time of The Phantom Menace. It just randomly mentioned his age of being 60 years old, and that would, of course, make him not born yet during this time of the High Republic, so people are upset seeing him as a character. I think that's one of the issues, but I think what they're mostly concerned with is how he was the one to question Qui-Gon when Qui-Gon said the Sith returned. As he said, it's impossible, but how is he here during this time when it seems like the Sith have returned 100 years earlier? But again, I think we should see how the season plays out. I think there's ways to work around this. I don't think the lore is ruined. As it's mentioned in the show, they're trying to keep everything very low-key, not involve the Senate or the High Council, and I don't think anything's been ruined so far.
Okay, that's bold. You get a lot of hate for that.
I said, hold up, wait a minute.
The chanting. Did we talk about the chanting?
We're gonna talk about the chanting.
Can we talk about the chanting? That's we should have opened with that, to be honest, because the chanting you can't get out of your head.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
The power of one, the power of many. I believe I'm quoting it right. I think that's definitely one of the things people said. Cringy, could be a little on the cringy side. Yeah. And it definitely didn't feel. I think it goes back to people saying it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It felt different. It didn't feel. And I think hopefully next episode we get a little more flashbacks to flush out these characters and
hopefully no chanting this time.
Yeah, maybe no more chanting.
More flush out. But if the worst, debatably the worst episode, and some are claiming ever, it was a flashback. Do we really want more flashbacks?
Well, they've been telling us we're gonna get another flashback for the last few episodes. As recently as today, that was kind of how the episode ended, with episode 6 being released today. I think it's interesting to see.
We could zoom out a little bit now, talking about maybe the director. And it's funny you say it doesn't, some parts don't feel like Star Wars, because one of the writers actually admitted to not watching Star Wars on the writing panel. And although we can't attribute it all to them, it is kind of a fun fact on that, and it kind of baffling to me. Headland, the directors, I believe their reasoning for it was to have somebody with a different perspective who hadn't watched Star Wars, but I think that's just a colossally bad idea to have anybody on the panel who has not seen Star Wars. That's what were they thinking? I'm not sure, but yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the issues with Star Wars is everyone walks into the shows and movies and they already have tons of expectations.
Yeah, sure.
They have their own headcanon, and I think someone who does know little to nothing, they're less focused on characters and just so nitpicking of details and characters and what they want to see out of them, when it's just, let's focus on the story. Let's not focus on the story of Star Wars, but just a good story in general. And I actually kind of like it.
It could be overwhelming, maybe. Especially, I'm not going to say as a writer going in, it's not intimidating. You have a decade of lore, basically, under your belt, and you're not going to be able to please everybody. I still do think it's kind of unfathomable.
Yeah.
But I feel like a good Star Wars writer, or one that would honor the series, would have the skill within themselves to filter out what they need to filter out. Let's pivot over to the director. She herself has been getting a lot of backlash, as well as that writer story and the show itself. being too woke and being attributed to the director, because at the end of the day, they have a lot of say in the matters, and Disney hasn't had the best track record of appointing directors. I won't go on a tangent, but especially when it comes to reboots, remakes, giving these big properties to these people who quite frankly want to push an agenda, or they go too woke with it. So I feel like this definitely could have fallen into that category. The director, Leslye Headland is her name. We were looking through at some of her filmographies, her TV series filmography as well, and we're going through here and seeing what she's worked on before. And I know that's not the best judgment, but if your career from 2010, so we're talking 24 years now, has been predominantly comedy, I don't know how that's going to translate. If we look at her television credits for the past 10 years, we got Terriers, Blunt Talk, Smilf, Heathers, Black Monday, Almost Family, Russian Doll, Single Drunk Female. And in 2024, The Acolyte. There's a disconnect here. I'm not sure what they were thinking. Well, you having seen the show as a fan, do you think they got too woke with it?
I think people are pointing out what they can perceive as being woke. I think the best way to enjoy the show, whether it's woke or not, is to just try to cancel that out. Even if, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, I think just try to focus on the story. Try not to get immersed real world issues or the real world with it. I mean, obviously Star Wars picks up on a lot of real world topics, but it doesn't have to ruin your experience if you don't like it.
I agree. I'd agree to some degree. I agree. Here's the thing: if there wasn't any context or history behind Disney, there would be less. I feel like there'd be more grace, but because of like the previous, them getting woke with pretty much most of their previous remakes, it's like them continuously trying to pander. I feel like people are done giving grace, especially with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So they're much more, is it right to write off an entire show? Probably not, you know. So you make a fair point there. But I think it's just the climate of it. People are just so fed up that their patience is none. They're on a thin rope every single time. Disney's on a thin rope with a lot of these fans, and myself included. So we're not willing to give it.
People came into the show, you're expecting it. And I think that's the thing.
Thank you guys for watching. Comment below. Let us know. What do you think of the controversy, The Acolyte in general? Are you going to continue to watch? Did you even watch it? We'd love to hear it below. Comment below and let us know. Follow for more at Placid5. And I'll see you guys next week.